Chris Rock is ready to talk about that infamous Oscars slap, and he's doing it during a live comedy special. He's going to address the slap heard around the world during his live Netflix special. This will be the first for the streaming service, doing it live. The live show experiment will feature pre- and post-show programming with appearances from some big-name comedians. So Anna Tingley is a culture writer for Variety, and she's joining us now to talk more about this. I think this is really interesting. I like the concept of a live show, but Chris Rock has been actually talking about the slap. He's been doing live shows here and there. No one's allowed to bring their cameras in or anything like that. I presume he was probably sort of workshopping the jokes for this big debut.
Yes, we can definitely assume that for the past month or so, he's been testing out this material. I think there's been some leaks, but this will be the first time that he's publicly talking about that very infamous slap that happened a year ago. So people are very excited about it and very curious about what he says.
You know, it was such a big cultural moment when it happened. I think a lot of people were waiting in the weeks and months after for like this big interview, right? Because that's how the standard media rollout is. You do this like sit down interview and everyone does soft lighting and you talk about it. That never happened. So we're doing this Netflix special now that we're all, you know, excited to hear about. Why is that, do you think?
Exactly, it's really interesting. He did no Oprah Winfrey sit down, no Instagram story. He was really strategic about it. I think, you know, he waited basically a year to talk about it, and I think it was a smart move. He's doing it in the Chris Rock way. I haven't seen the jokes, but we can expect it to be lighthearted. It's obviously going to be jokes in his special. He's not going to be too serious about it. And I think that's the way he wanted it to go.
I think this is really an interesting experiment for Netflix too, because we don't do appointment TV anymore like we used to, because there's just way too many options. You know, you ask people what they're streaming, somebody already streamed the whole series already, so you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But this is kind of an experiment in bringing back appointment TV.
Exactly. I think Netflix is trying to foray into live TV programming. Just like you said, there's a lot of competition, and I think they want to take advantage of really newsy things that people are talking about, you know, timely events.
Yeah.
So I think it was really smart. It's interesting Netflix and Chris Rock teamed up in September for this special. Netflix is claiming that it's a total coincidence that it's coming out a week before the Oscars. Who knows if that's true?
I don't know. That's
what they're
a
saying.
little fishy. How coincidental can that really be?
I like this pre and post show thing. I mean, they're basically going to take over my whole Saturday night.
Oh, totally.
And I thought, God, this must be costing them a pretty penny, because they got some big names, right?
Yeah, and so it's interesting because the pre and post shows are going to be completely live, so it won't be available on demand. So you'll have to tune in right when it starts to be able to see it.
Wait, does that mean like these comedians could say anything?
I mean, people.
Well, it's not television,
people can record
so I guess
it.
you can just say anything you really want to, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be on TV. I mean, people will have their phones. I'm sure there'll be things reposted, but you won't be able to go on Netflix too.
It's not. It could not. It's not. Well, maybe it's scripted. I don't know, but they can basically just go off if they wanted to, and Netflix is just going to have to cross their fingers and hope they don't find themselves in like a Dave Chappelle situation.
Exactly.
You know, given all of that, when we hear about live programming on Netflix, my first thought is, isn't that just TV? Like, why are we reinventing what we've been doing for decades and decades? Is this a new model that we're going to be looking at?
I know. I think it's really interesting. I mean, I think we're already seeing that with weekly TV drops. I think a lot of people are enjoying. It's funny because Netflix made a name for themselves with binging, right? They were the first streamer to post all of their episodes right at once, have people watching a show in 2 days.
Yeah.
And I think other streamers like HBO are, you know, dropping their episodes in chunks or just on a weekly basis. And I think they're finding a lot of success with that. So it's funny. Yeah, we're kind of regressing a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I was thinking about how much this is going to cost. I mean, they could have charged extra for it, but I suppose they're not. I mean, they're trying to figure out ways to make money.
And a way on top of everything.
Exactly. They already made the deal with Chris Rock. I think it was $40 million for the first special, Tambourine, in 2018, and then a second special, which ended up being this. So I don't know if they renegotiated, but I'm sure he could have gotten a lot more money.
Yeah, there's a lot of plenty of money as is. You know, it's going to be really interesting because I think a year is just enough time that this has kind of disappeared from people's minds. I forgot that it was a year
Will
ago.
Smith was hoping.
Yeah, I will say I was not expecting to be talking about this a year later, but it's exciting because the Oscars are coming up again next week. So
yeah,
and it was the moment that impacted so many. I mean, their careers for sure, especially Will Smith's. And it's yet to see if how it'll impact his long term, because he's not allowed to come back to the Oscars even for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years, yep.
Man. Well, Anna, Tingley, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
I'll
you
be
so much,
watching.
guys.
Are you going to be watching?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I got
I
my
have to.
popcorn flavors picked out and my drink.
I got to follow up on what flavors you're talking about there. All right, coming up.